February 18th, 2001. The Daytona International Speedway buzzed with anticipation. Engines roared, fans screamed, and the green flag waved on what should have been just another legendary race in the NASCAR calendar. But in the final lap, something went wrong. In a split second, an icon's life came to a halt. Dale Earnhardt Sr. wasn't just a racer, he was the racer. A fearless competitor who had built his legacy one battle-scarred lap at a time. His number 3 black Chevrolet became a symbol of grit, aggression, and victory. But on that Sunday afternoon, under the Florida sun, the unthinkable happened. How did one of the most experienced drivers in NASCAR history meet such a devastating end in what looked like an ordinary crash? What split-second choices and mechanical failures contributed to the tragedy? And could it all have been avoided? This is the haunting story of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s final race, a day that would forever change NASCAR. But to truly understand the weight of that final impact, we need to look back at the man behind the wheel, his rise, his dominance, and the relentless pursuit of victory that defined his life. The rise of a legend. Born on April 29, 1951 in Kannapolis, North Carolina, Ralph Dale Earnhardt Sr. grew up in a town defined by blue-collar grit and hard-earned pride. From the very beginning, racing wasn't just a dream, it was a birthright. His father, Ralph Earnhardt, was already a decorated short-track driver, known for his mechanical savvy and fierce competitiveness on the dirt ovals of the Southeast. But despite his own success, Ralph had one rule: racing was too dangerous for his son. Dale, of course, had other plans. By the age of 12, Dale had reportedly already sneaked behind the wheel of his father's car. Rumors say he even entered a race under a false name and nearly beat one of Ralph's biggest rivals. While some dismiss the story as legend, it set the tone for a young man who would break every rule to chase a life behind the wheel. When Ralph tragically died of a heart attack in 1973, Dale was just 22, but already deeply entrenched in local racing circles. Still, he carried the heavy burden of trying to live up to the legacy of the father who never fully endorsed his career path. It became his silent motivation to prove he could not just race, but dominate. Dale's early career was fueled by hustle, grit, and sheer will. He started with a beat-up 1956 Ford Victoria that he painted a questionable shade of pink because it was the only color he could afford. He built and fixed his cars with his own hands, often borrowing money to race and hoping to win enough to repay his debts. Every lap he ran was a gamble. His breakthrough came in 1979 when he landed his first full-time NASCAR Cup Series ride with Rod Osterlund's team. That rookie season, he secured 17 top 10 finishes in 27 races and took home the coveted Rookie of the Year title. But he wasn't done. Just 1 year later, he won the NASCAR Cup Championship, something no other driver had ever done so quickly. The sport had a new face of aggression, confidence, and relentless determination. In 1984, Earnhardt joined Richard Childress Racing, a partnership that would shape the future of NASCAR. Over the next 18 years, the combination of Earnhardt's raw driving talent and Childress's team expertise became one of the most dominant forces the sport had ever seen. Together, they won 6 more championships, bringing his career total to 7, tying legends like Richard Petty. But it wasn't just the wins. Dale Earnhardt redefined what it meant to be a NASCAR driver. With his black number 3 Chevrolet and intimidating style, he carved out a persona that was equal parts villain and hero. He didn't just race, he hunted. He bullied competitors out of his way and smiled doing it. That trademark aggression earned him nicknames like the Intimidator and Ironhead. Yet off the track, those who knew him spoke of a humble, deeply loyal man. He mentored young drivers, supported charity work quietly, and cherished his family, especially his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., who was beginning to carve out his own career in NASCAR. The 1990s were a golden era for Earnhardt. He won race after race, built an empire of sponsorships and merchandise, and became one of the most recognized sports figures in America. Still, there was one thing that always eluded him: the Daytona 500. Time and time again, bad luck, mechanical failures, and crashes stole it from him, until 1998. After 20 attempts, he finally crossed the line, first at Daytona, greeted by a standing ovation and handshakes from every crew member along pit road. It was the crowning moment of his storied career, but he wasn't ready to walk away. Even with a new generation of drivers emerging, including his own son, Earnhardt stayed competitive. He was still chasing wins, still intimidating, still dangerous on the track. In 2000, he pulled off one of the most thrilling victories of his career at Talladega, passing 17 cars in the final 4 laps. He wasn't just keeping up, he was still defining redefining what greatness looked like. Heading into the 2001 season, Earnhardt had nothing left to prove, but everything still to race for. Fans loved seeing him on the track, and rivals still feared seeing his black number, 3 in their rearview mirror. And when he showed up at Daytona that February, no one, absolutely no one, could have predicted how that day would end, because what was supposed to be just another race would turn into the darkest moment in NASCAR history. The Daytona disaster, February 18th, 2001. The stage was set at the Daytona International Speedway for what was expected to be a thrilling season opener. The 43rd running of the Daytona 500, a crown jewel of NASCAR, was packed with tension, excitement, and legacy. Dale Earnhardt, the 7-time champion and face of the sport, wasn't just participating. He was mentoring, managing, and racing all at once. Earlier that week, Earnhardt had been unusually reflective. To those around him, he seemed calm, content, even happy. His racing team, Dale Earnhardt Inc., had 2 cars in the field. The number 15 Chevrolet driven by Michael Waltrip and the number 8 car driven by his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Earnhardt himself was piloting his famous black number 3 Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing. What many didn't realize at the time was that this race had become about more than just victory for Dale. It was about legacy. He was determined to protect the 2 drivers he mentored and cared about most, running interference and clearing a path to the front for both. The green flag dropped, and the race unfolded like a high-speed chess match. Earnhardt remained close to the front for most of the event, running in the top 10, managing his car expertly, and executing defensive driving to keep others at bay. He led for 17 laps, a sign he still had what it took. Then came lap 173. An 18-car crash, later dubbed the Big One, erupted mid-pack, creating chaos and scattering debris across the track. Miraculously, all drivers emerged unharmed, and after a red flag delay for cleanup, the field was reset. When the race resumed with just 20 laps to go, the running order was poetic. Michael Waltrip in first, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in second, and Dale Earnhardt Sr. in third. Father behind son, mentor behind student. As the laps wound down, Earnhardt Jr. was battling for the win, while Earnhardt Sr. was holding back the field, blocking, drafting, and even bumping other cars to give his teammates clear air to run. It was classic Earnhardt, calculated aggression used to help others shine. But then came the final lap, turn 4. With just a few hundred yards left in the race, Sterling Marlin in the number 40 Dodge moved to the inside of Earnhardt's car. Earnhardt in a defensive maneuver came down slightly to block. There was light contact, barely more than a nudge, but at nearly 160 miles per hour, that was enough. The number 3 car veered slightly up the track. At the same moment, Ken Schrader in the number 36 Pontiac was on the outside lane. Earnhardt's car clipped Schrader's, sending both spinning toward the outside retaining wall. Then came the impact. Earnhardt's car hit the wall at approximately 155 to 160 miles per hour at an estimated angle of 55 to 59 degrees. It was a brutal, high-energy collision, deceptively unremarkable to viewers on TV. The car didn't flip, there was no fireball. From the outside, it didn't look catastrophic, but the angle and violence of the impact would prove fatal. As the car slammed into the wall, the right rear tire assembly snapped clean off. Inside the cockpit, Earnhardt's head slammed forward, his body thrown against the restraints. Without a hands device, head and neck support, and wearing an open-faced helmet, his head rotated sharply forward and rebounded back into the seat. The result was a basilar skull fracture, a severe break at the base of the skull that causes instantaneous brainstem damage, the kind of injury that offers no second chance. Meanwhile, Ken Schrader's car slid to the infield and came to rest near Earnhardt's. Schrader, uninjured, quickly climbed out of his car and ran to check on his friend. What he saw through the driver's window of the number 3 car changed everything. Earnhardt wasn't moving. Schrader later recalled that he immediately waved for help. "I could tell right away it was bad," he said. "Really bad." On the track, the crowd roared as Michael Waltrip took the checkered flag, earning his first career NASCAR Cup Series win. Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished second. Waltrip celebrated in victory lane, unaware that the man who made it all possible wasn't coming. Back at the crash site, paramedics swarmed Earnhardt's car. The window net was down, a sign the driver might be conscious. But as they opened the door and checked his vitals, hope faded. Dale was unresponsive. He was carefully removed from the wreckage and loaded into an ambulance. With the crowd still unaware of the severity of the situation, he was transported to Halifax Medical Center, just minutes away. At 5:16 p.m., Dale Earnhardt was pronounced dead. He was 49 years old. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, specifically a basilar skull fracture, the same injury that had taken the lives of other NASCAR drivers in recent months: Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin Jr., and Tony Roper. But this was different. This wasn't just any driver. This was the driver, the icon, the intimidator. In the hours that followed, disbelief rippled through the motorsport world. Fans waited for updates that never came. And when NASCAR president Mike Helton stepped to the podium that evening and delivered the now infamous words, "We've lost Dale Earnhardt," the sport changed forever. The crash didn't just take a legend, it shattered a generation's sense of invincibility. It ended an era, and the question on everyone's mind was simple: could it have been prevented? Legacy and impact. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was more than a NASCAR champion. He was a symbol of grit, risk, and resilience. His death on that tragic February day forced the sport to confront its own vulnerabilities. In the wake of his passing, NASCAR underwent sweeping safety reforms. The HANS device was made mandatory. The safer barrier system became standard. Cockpit design was improved. And in the years since, no other driver has died in a NASCAR Cup Series race. But for fans, the memory of that black number, 3 Chevrolet crossing the track for the last time, still lingers, etched in history, not just for how he raced, but for what was lost in that final fatal turn. If you found this story powerful, you won't want to miss our deep dive into the final moments of F1 driver Jules Bianchi, a young talent whose crash in Japan shook the world of motorsport and led to some of the most critical safety advancements in modern racing. Watch it now.